5:30.
She'll be here, she's
Yeah.
just late.
Get this meeting going. We have the minutes from last
I
meeting.
forgot to send them to you guys. Sorry.
Well, let's skip that till next time. Director report?
Well, these right here, I did April, May, and June. So, for city, so we'll do cats first. City, county, Hanover, so 15, 9, and 2. And then dogs, 5, 10, and 4. So 5 for the city, 10 for the county, 4 for Hanover. So a total of 26 cats, 19 dogs for the month of April. 4 of those for dogs were owner relinquished. 7 of those out of the total were reclaimed by their owners, so they ended up illegally living after they came in. Good Samaritan drop-offs, which is they find a stray on the street, 6. And then ACO brought in 9. And then for cats, owner relinquished, 6. Owner reclaimed, 9 total went home to their owners. Good Samaritan drop-offs, 11. ACO I call them drop-offs, but ACO bring in cats in 9. May, city, county, Hanover. So for cats, it's 22, 18, and 4, so the numbers are going up every month. Dogs, 3, 4, and 1. We were fortunate that month, we didn't have very many. So owner relinquish, dogs 2, cats 2. Owner reclaim, 5 dogs went home, back to their owners. 1 cat went home, back to their owner. Good Samaritan drop-offs, we had 3 dogs come in from strays from people finding them on the sides of the roads. 31 cats. That number is huge, but they're coming in 5 and 6 and 7 at a time because they're coming in mama and kittens. ACO drop-off, they brought 3 dogs in for the month of May and 11 cats. And then June 1st up until today, we have, this is, as you can see, it goes up, 41 cats have come in just in the last 15 days. Dogs, 14. So the city had 37 cats, county had 1, Hanover had 3. Dogs, 6 for city, county had 5, Hanover had 3. Owner relinquish, everyone knows what owner relinquish is, okay. So dogs 5, cats 5. Owner reclaim, 9 dogs went home to their owners, 2 cats went home to their owners. Good Samaritan drop-offs were 6 for dogs and 18 for cats. ACO drop-offs, they brought 3 dogs in and 14 cats. I broke it down as much as I could.
I have a question on it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a certain area that we're seeing most of the cats come from
City.
in the city? I know in the city, but is there a way to like
I
see?
can look at that. Janet
Okay.
can give me that, a breakdown of that.
'Cause I'm curious.
Yeah.
Because it may be worth exploring if a like trap new to release program in that certain area if we're seeing like a lot of kittens
Right.
coming in. So if we can target that, just try and target that. And then do you have numbers on adoptions? Or are you getting there?
Somewhere I do.
Did you forget that?
I did. Listen, it's been, everybody knows I think our heating and cooling system is struggling right now, and I have been struggling to keep up through the day. I can email that.
Okay.
I can email that to the media too. So, yeah.
And normally we'd be looking at a sheet as far as the intake as well as the
Mhm.
adoptions and what went out to rescues.
Right.
The breakdown on that.
The problem with printing that off on Pet Point is I have to go in and do a city printout, a county printout, and a Hanover printout. And then I have to go in and do a adoption print, so I would have upwards of 30 pages to give you, for you all to go through, because it breaks it down so much. And it does give addresses, but you're going through sheets and sheets and sheets of stuff. I mean, I can always give that to you. I have no problem doing that to you, but it is a lot.
So you just tried to compile
I
it?
just tried to make a
Yeah.
spreadsheet and condense it down. But
Which I
anybody
appreciate.
who wants that, I'll give.
Yeah.
But you could do
So-
the same thing on the others. I mean, you could simply do an Excel spreadsheet template that picks up these information and at the same time also we
Mhm.
transfer the adoption information to it.
I do have the adoption information, I
Yeah.
don't have it with me.
I just
Yeah.
don't think it was like intentional that he left off the
No,
adoption
I didn't.
information.
No,
It
I
was
didn't.
just completely.
I can definitely send an email
Yeah, if
out
you'll email
with
that, because I think that gives us a good idea too of like,
Mhm.
you know, you see these numbers and
Yeah.
you're like, holy cow, but as you said, there's not, I mean, if you add these up,
No.
there's not, whatever that is, 14, 18, 9, that many.
There's really not that, I mean, adoptions were decent in April, but they have significantly dropped as the prices of everything else in life have gone up.
Yeah,
Do you have a estimate of the population you have now?
Yeah, I said around 57 cats and 950 litters of kittens, and we have 30 dogs.
Okay.
Now, when I'm seeing these high numbers on Good Samaritan drop-off
Right.
and then also on owner relinquish.
Yes.
Do you have, what procedure do you follow when someone comes in as far as what questions you're asking? How many of these do you truly feel are Good Samaritan drop-offs to where someone's just happening across a litter of kittens and a cat or
Right.
5 cats out in the road? I travel the county a great deal and you have to, awful big stretch to 4 cats in a
Right.
day's time that you'd have a chance of
Right.
laying your hands on.
There's a lot of gray area. I ask how many days they've fed the cats, when they were dropped off, where they were dropped off. The big question is how long they've had them, because if you feed them for 3 days, they're technically yours. But there's no way to prove that. Here, you want. There's no way to actually prove that. So I do appreciate the people that do come in that are honest, that says, hey, I can't take care of my animal, can you take it? But other than that, I don't know a good way. You can't screen them for lying when they come in, but you also can't deny the animal a life. So there is a gray area there. So I would say people are probably telling me the truth about 20% of the time.
We work more on having to have animal control to go out
Yes.
and pick those up versus them bringing them in. And then animal control was in a position to where they could do a little bit more of an investigation and make a determination as to whether they were strays or they were actually animals there that they had as pets.
but I guess
Yeah.
if they show up at the animal shelter,
You can't.
does Lindsay
I
turn them
can't
away
turn
then?
away, no.
What's that?
If they show up at the animal shelter, do we need to have Lindsay just turn them away then?
Well, we do.
Because-
Well, there's other alternatives than just straight out turning away. We'd have conversations as well of encouraging people. Was this a matter of just having the money to feed them for a period of time? We have food we can make available. Have you, especially on owner relinquishes, we would encourage greatly, well, you know, this
Yeah,
isn't
that's
yours
right.
just to walk away from. You need to be, have you advertised on Facebook? Have you attempted to find a home for the animal?
And I
We
would say
do
you
do
do
all
that
that.
a
Yeah,
lot.
we
And
do
we
do all
would
that.
work that quite heavily, especially when you're seeing as high a numbers as
Yes.
30 dogs and 57
Yeah.
cats in the facility.
And we do that. When somebody calls and wants to relinquish their animal, our first line is, have you advertised it? Have you checked with all your family members? Is it a matter of a food thing? We have given food to people so they can keep the animals for a little longer until we've had space. But we always encourage to advertise first to see if they can find a home on their own before they come in.
And I know you guys have helped with that, because the
Yeah.
day I was volunteering up there, Valerie was actually doing
Yeah.
that while I was there. She had plugged in, someone had reached out, she was in correspondence with this person who said, I need to relinquish my dog. And she
Mhm.
said, hey, we can advertise that this dog is available, we're happy to do that. Can you
Yes.
please hold on to the dog? We don't have the space at the shelter.
Yes.
So I know you guys are doing that.
Yes, most of the time they email us pictures and we post it on our website.
Do you
Yeah.
inform them that the animal may be euthanized?
No, I don't inform them because if they're healthy, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so the shelter has a we'll take them all until when did that policy go into place, that you'll overcrowd the shelter again? And
I mean,
I'm gonna ask you to wait for public comment. And
I'm not.
I think I'll take that from Ray.
I'm not killing a healthy animal, I'm sorry. I know
Okay,
that
that's
makes
okay, I'm
sense.
just
I know,
asking
I
because it's
know,
very
and
confusing.
I know everybody's opinions are different and that makes sense to you, but that's not how I
No,
work.
I'm just saying, do you still do that or not? Because
I
that's
don't
something
inform them that it may be euthanized when it comes to
Okay.
the shelter.
that I just need to know.
Now, if they're sick or injured when they come in, my first line of defense is if, you can kind of tell whether or not it's got internal injuries, if it's really bad. Most of the time she takes them for me, God bless her. And if we have to make the decision to put them down, then we put them down.
Yeah.
So, but if it's perfectly healthy and adoptable, I just don't. I don't do that. I don't know.
It's a hard thing, and
It is a very hard thing.
I don't think we should
morally.
ever be in that, and that's like a discussion that we're gonna have with our euthanasia policy, but again, we've made new progress really on that. There's other policies we need to talk about. We're at budget season now, so
Yes.
these are gonna get tabled, but again, I don't think the community wants to support a kill shelter, from bigger donors I've spoken to who would be willing to donate if we're not a kill shelter. There's been people who have told me, well, I thought the shelter was a kill shelter, I'm not giving my money to the shelter. Not saying we need to rely on donors, we'll get to that. I have some topics I would like to discuss tonight, but the
That's a,
community doesn't want to support a kill shelter, but there
Right.
also needs to be education in our community, and there needs to, because it's a bigger issue of, yes, the shelter's overcrowded, but why is the shelter overcrowded? It's a bigger issue of education in our community, and kind of changing the mindset of people, and having, no offense to pets, having affordable spay and neuter options more frequently, because there are people who love their animals but just can't afford an expensive spay or neuter.
and that's one of the first questions, like if an owner calls me and says, I can't take care of my animal, but the first thing I want to know from you is, are you going to put it down? Because they love the animal, it's healthy, they don't want it to be put down, but they want to make sure it's going to a safe place, and I want to be that safe place.
Well, at times though, there's an advantage whether you're putting animals down or not putting them down on overcrowding or so forth. There's some advantage that if the individual that's bringing the animal in has some concern over whether the animal could be put down or not, they are far more likely to take a larger role in trying to rehome the animal themselves and so forth. It's not the county's responsibility just to dissolve these people of all of their responsibility,
And I would agree with
that
that.
they have an animal that they're bringing in, and
I would 100% agree
because
with
most of it, there's very little of it to where they can't afford to feed it anymore or so forth. It may be simply that they're moving, or they decided they didn't like it, or who knows what the
Right.
reason. You know, a cat that's peeing on the floor or whatever, and they need to be encouraged that they have a responsibility role there as well.
And I would
And
agree.
sometimes if they know that their decision could possibly result in the death of their animal, they'll take a little more active role in.
But I don't think we
seeing
need to be
that.
spreading to the public where a kill shelter, it could be, you know, the shelter is overcrowded. I am letting you know that the shelter is overcrowded. But we also run the risk of then that animal just being dumped.
That's what happens 90% of
Yeah.
the time. That's what happened with Albert.
It's a
They
horrible
wanted to call and
situation.
we had to put him on a waiting list, and 2 days later, Albert was found less than a mile from the people who called, wandering down the street on his own.
Yeah, dumped.
And, yeah, he was dumped. Unfortunately, that's their second option. I understand it.
But I do agree, there needs to be,
Right, and the
and
same
I,
thing, in those situations, it needs to be referred back. The person needed to go through the law enforcement side of it and be cited for allowing their animal to run loose.
Yes, we do.
Or either
Yes.
abandon them, that side of it.
and I
But
think
until
eventually.
we start getting some of the enforcement in place as well,
Thank you,
Yes.
yes,
it's not gonna
thank you on
change
that.
that.
Every
I
phone
agree,
call.
we need to be enforcing what we have on the books, and we also need to be looking at making recommendations of enhancing what we do have on the books on the city side and on the county side, because the ordinance are probably really outdated in the sense of like, I mean, people don't see that their animal is also their responsibility and not just a piece of property.
Right, and when they call and they want to bring animals in, first thing we always tell them is we'll give you dispatch's number, you need to go through animal control.
Yeah,
They don't always follow that procedure, but that is the first thing we tell them when they do call.
yeah,
I can't tell somebody that who already shows up on the porch with the animal to go take it home, call animal control, have them come out and get it, and then have animal control bring it in. But if they call, that is always the first thing we say, is you need to call dispatch, get a hold of animal control, and we'll dispatch them out.
and I will say, like, you see these numbers and it seems high because our shelter is a smaller shelter.
It is.
But there's other shelters, I mean, shelter overcrowding is going on
Everywhere.
immensely, and at the rescues are
Mhm.
overstretched right now, but 57 cats. Every time I go into the shelter, and I'm like, where are all your cats? You got none.
Yeah,
Because of when Lindsay started, it was insane, and I think that Lindsay deserves to have credit for what she has accomplished instead of being constantly told it's not enough. She deserves credit for what has happened, because one of our first board meetings was if
There
we
was a
can't
lot
get,
of
there was
cats
like,
when I
I think 80 something, and there's gonna have to be difficult decisions made with the cats.
It was
That
a
was
lot.
something that
Yes.
Mr. Oxer, you had said, and there hasn't had to be. She's turned them around, she's made this partnership with PetSense, like, it's phenomenal.
They need a lot of credit.
It's phenomenal.
Because they take every fully vetted cat we have and they go quicker over there. They have more foot traffic through the week, people going in and buying pet food.
And I wish we had the adoption numbers so we can compare that,
I
because
know,
this
I'm
looks,
sorry.
this is daunting to say, oh my gosh, all these animals are coming in, but we don't have the adoption numbers, but I forgive you.
I could probably pull Pet Point when we
Yeah.
calm down. I could pull Pet Point up and see
Yeah.
if I can't get them.
But I think it's, it's important to note that
Yes.
there have been a lot of animals that have left and gone to rescues. There's been a lot of animals that have been adopted, and then that partnership with PetSense has just
Yes.
grown so much. They're fabulous. They really, really are.
Yeah, Carrie's great over there. She'll send me messages all the time, updates on the cats, like if a cat is not acting right, if a cat is aggressive or something, she'll call me and say like, hey, can we switch out? This cat needs something, this cat needs medicine, something like that. She has been great,
Yeah,
no complaints.
and I think we really, like, yes, we are in dire needs, everyone is, but it's like, and I do agree with you that we do need to be telling these people, this is your responsibility, like, please
Yes.
know that the shelter is overcrowded. And you don't have to say we're a kill shelter, but we could even give them statistics on how overcrowding in the shelters is the #1 killer of cats and dogs across
Yeah.
the nation. I think that's important for them to know.
We can do
But
that.
the
We can-
community, I don't know any community members, and if you do that wants to donate their money to a kill shelter, let me know. But anyone I've spoken with does not. And again, I know we're not going to rely on donations, that's another topic.
So most of these cats and kittens and mothers aren't feral then, are they?
No, they're not.
Or they wouldn't be able to catch them?
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Trust me, I got feral
But
recently.
a lot of them are too young to go
Easy.
anywhere,
Mhm.
so.
But chances are, if you don't take them in, or even if you think they're trying to blow smoke,
They're gonna die.
they'll dump them alongside the road and then they have no chance at all.
Right.
And they may survive and then they
they're
reproduce
feral.
and, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then it doubles back
Catch-22.
around on you.
Yeah.
And my point at the time on the euthanasia, and it would still be the same point, if I much appreciate if homes can be found and out to rescues, all in favor of that, it's the first stand of it. But I am not in favor if the number of animals hadn't been able to been brought down and we were sitting there ongoing with 80, 90 cats in the facility. I don't find that to be a humane situation. I find that keeping animals in the shelter indefinitely, that humane euthanization is a better process than housing animals long-term in those situations. Then also you increase the risk to all of the animals that are there, especially in the cat population. When you start having 50, 60 cats in fairly close proximity, the chances of getting upper respiratory disease in the whole group becomes much, much larger. So there's some reasons there. I always see it as a last resort, but I don't want to see animals kept just for the sake of being able to say we never euthanized an animal.
We're not saying, I know you have had to
Yeah, we
euthanize.
have, for animals out of our control.
I think we
We
have
had to do one today.
some decent protocols in place though that have decreased the amount of
Yeah.
respiratory that have come
Good,
into the
that's
cat
great.
population
Yes,
since the
well, that's
Give
thanks
Joy
to
credit
you.
here.
Yeah,
Give
now you
yourself
gotta give her credit,
credit.
because I walked in and I had a panic attack and she came up one day and, oh, you helped me clean. So,
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I appreciate. And I think everyone on this board needs to spend a day at the animal shelter to really see, if you haven't, and I mean a day actually there doing the grunt work Joy has. I've been there, I've done a volunteer day. There's a lot of work that goes into it for an understaffed in a building that's just, it's not the greatest building. It's really difficult. It's a lot of work, and every single person on this board should spend a day up there actually volunteering their time so they can see the sort of situation that our staff is dealing with up there.
the building is just,
I don't even want to talk about it yet. I have it on my
I
notes.
know, it makes it so hard to get it done adequately.
When you're talking about building your AC, is it something
It's
wrong
not,
with it? or-
yeah, it has a leak. It's had a leak for several weeks, and Crowley and Heating and Cooling came out and assessed it and took all the information, and I feel like I'm harassing them. I call every morning at 7:30
Did
or
it
8
fix the
o'clock.
leak?
They've not come back with an estimate. They said they had to order a part. So I called this guy, which I wrote his name and number,
That doesn't sound like a leak then.
They said that the estimate would have to replace half the system in the hallway.
That's only about,
That's all the information that they have given me.
what, 2 years old?
I don't know for sure.
Remember when Jenny had to replace
I
it with
wasn't
lightning?
involved in that directly.
You were on them.
I was on the board, but I don't remember the
Yeah.
particular time frame.
It's not been that long.
I think it's just a couple.
I think it was last year.
Bonnie's
Wow.
right.
It was last year.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember that unit
It's not
sold out in that
old.
fenced-in
Would it have
area.
I didn't
been
even know she was back there.
20? Wouldn't it have been 20?
That's what I think.
It might have been, it wasn't more than 2 years, but I was
Anyway.
thinking, I remember it
It's
sitting in
not
that
that-
fenced-in
it's
area
not
out
that
front.
old.
It's just in that hallway. Everywhere else is perfect in the building. It's just in that kennel run. So I called this guy. He's coming at noon tomorrow.
Yeah, but it's not visible.
It's in the babies.
Yeah, I tried
Dog
to stick with them
kennels.
because they've got all
Yeah.
the information. They have been good so far about showing up, but with this issue right here, they're not.
Wow.
I mean, I think
And that's
she's
like
gonna
a
take
I mean,
bids
that's a
to
major
fix
issue,
it.
it's the
You
dog
would think
hallway.
it
Yes.
would
So
warrant
that's
it.
what that
Be
he-
coming
But
through.
if it's a
Yeah.
leak, they normally trace it down and
But is
seal it, and
is
then
there, right, is there just one air conditioning unit? Or are
it's
there
only
two?
got one.
Yeah.
There's only one in the building. So if the rest of the building's staying cool, there's no leak involved.
That's just what they
If there
told
was
me.
a leak involved as
Sounds
far
like
as
a ductwork.
refrigeration or so forth,
Yeah.
it would be warm everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, if there's some problem to where ductwork isn't hooked in correctly or came loose, that would be a different story, but.
That's just the information that the boy gave me when he came and did the walkthrough.
Isn't he talking about that unit in the garage? There's 2 units. One goes out to the dog kennels and one goes to the cat side.
Yep.
It's that big box that goes towards the dog side is where he said the leak is.
Well, then you may have one unit that's not working right at all then, there's 2 units up there then. instead
Yeah,
of-
there's the one that,
Okay.
like I said, because the cat part of the building is cool, it's the dog thing, and I was there when he was
So
testing.
the one that
he
they're
said
having
it's
problem
leaking.
with may not be the one that was replaced.
Oh, okay, that makes
So
sense.
they didn't replace the whole
The
system.
one that was replaced was right there by the tower, right?
I just saw the unit out by the tower, I don't know where they put it, but yeah, it was
No, I'm pretty
outside
Are
is
there
where it
are there 2
was.
outdoor units or 1 outdoor unit on the air conditioning?
Out in that fenced-in area?
Or
I think there's
anywhere.
just one.
Just-
Yeah.
well, There's just one.
Yeah, I
air
think there-
conditioning
just
building,
one.
So I don't know.
Why don't I know
I
that?
don't look at their
I don't know.
Should
They're
have
not
two
all
air
full.
handlers for one unit.
And it's right there on the front
Is
of the
it one?
building, by the tower and caged-in area.
Yeah, it's right underneath the
It's
window
gonna-
in the HOH room.
I think it's even gonna be hotter next week, so this means, and I know you're calling
Yeah.
them, so I'm not saying you're not.
Yeah, that
but, like,
guy's coming tomorrow.
who can help really push that this is a sense of urgency with Crawleys if we need to, or can we just say, hey, we're moving on, we have to get this done?
Yeah, when I
I
called
know,
him,
is
this,
it
well,
commissioners that make the decision?
I usually, they want me to get estimates. If it's a big project, I need to get estimates. This guy's coming tomorrow at noon. We've got a Danny Jones that I still am going to call. There's Steinhardt's.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not from here, so if anybody has anybody else, I'm willing to take the names down. And then they told me this morning from Crawley's that they were gonna email me an estimate. I never got that email at all day.
They're not,
And-
they're not very reliable.
In the
I'm
meantime,
learning.
You can't
Steinhardt
wait
seems to be
around
better. We
waiting
use
this kind of
Steinhardt.
weather.
We've not had any problems with them.
and that's who we
And we
use.
get on their list and they come right away when we call them.
Okay.
Who'd you say?
Steinhardt,
But I can tell you guys in the past, Crawley was always the one that came first.
Well,
in the past, yeah.
Historically,
If you call
they
them,
always
tell
were
them
right
not to.
there within an hour after
So-
Jim called them.
Lindsay, can you share what you've done to help the dogs in this
Yeah.
situation?
Well, we have water wars in the mornings. We've made some improvements, and that's on the new news here.
Okay.
We've made some improvements to the outdoor kennels. We got all our stuff in today. I ordered some cooling mats. I don't know how well that'll go over because some of them have chewing problems, but I know my dogs at home love them and it helps them a lot. So those will go in the outdoor kennels. We've got new water buckets and everything, and we've got one person, like this morning, the girls and Braden cleaned, and I just continuously went around in a circle with the water hose and watered them all down and pulled them all off, and that's just something that you have to do. Cash has so much hair on him, you know, you just gotta sprinkle him with water consistently, and it seemed to work. I'd like to get some splash pads, not only for my amusement, but I think the dogs would like it. But we have that outdoor area out there. It's not a big outdoor run, but a small splash pad could go in it.
Yeah. And then you said you put fans in that hallway too?
Yes, I got 2 fans yesterday that are 360.
Oscillating.
Yes, and they're working better than what we had before, but it's still not getting the job done.
Yeah.
What if you had some like Tractor Supply's got?
Big air conditioning units?
They're not, I don't mean the big 4-footers, but they're probably 30-inch blades on them.
It's like a big
They're
barn.
round, set on the
Yeah.
floor. They
Yeah.
move a lot of air.
Well, we talked about a misting fan too.
Hey, what?
A misting fan?
Oh, misting? I thought you
Yeah.
said missing.
I don't know. Then I would be concerned we would have to get a.
Lowe's sells
dehumidifier.
those portable stand-up air conditioners. Can we get some of those maybe?
Is that ones that has the hose hooked up to the
There's
back? that has
there's
to
an
go out the
exhaust
window?
hose that you can put outside, but they're stand-up and they blow cold air. Maybe that, if we got a couple of those, that could help until something was fixed.
That's what I originally looked at. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
get a
because I know
hose
you're suffering in
extender.
there. When we were in there, it was
Yeah, it was
it was
pretty
hot.
bad.
It was
I
really
just-
hot.
No air movement.
Yeah,
No.
if
And there's
it can't be fixed like that, then we,
I would
Right.
say, if you don't get something going tomorrow, we need to,
Yes.
like, by noon.
Yeah, because I've all but begged on the phone,
Because it's-
and
and
I,
next week's gonna be like,
So do you have a way to vent the portable air? I know they have that hose and do you have a window or something?
Yeah, there's
we have
a
very
door.
small windows. See, like when you walk out, there's the kennels, and then there's what we call the bowling alley. That's the drain, and the windows are in the bowling alley. So we would have to get like a dryer hose extender
Yeah.
and extend it out the window. So
They do
the tricky
pull
part
pretty
would be
well.
finding a place to set it to where it wouldn't get damaged.
if you
or-
need help setting, like, if you got one tomorrow, if you're in that situation and you
Mhm.
need help getting it set up, let me know, and then I know someone that will help you.
I just thought that would be tricky on one with a hose that needs to go out a window because our windows are so small. No.
we can figure a way. You can get a flange that hook the hose to and hook
Yeah.
it to the window and just blow it out. Yeah, at least that'll give you some kind of relief.
Yeah,
We
A
need
split
to-
unit might work in there. You
straight
reckon?
time for the air conditioner to break.
It happened at Switzerland
In the
County
kennel
too.
part,
Did it?
Yeah, right at the beginning of summer.
That's
The
what
main
we have
thing
in our
is
kennel.
the air conditioning unit needs to be fixed one way. or the
Yeah,
other.
no matter
It really
what,
does.
but the
And-
dogs have to have temporary
Yeah.
relief if it's gonna be,
It
like,
needs to
if
get-
it can't be turned around tomorrow.
There shouldn't
Depending
be
on
a,
the cost.
there
We have
shouldn't be
a
a
split.
reason that has to stretch out any length of time.
Yeah.
They're not
We have a
terribly
split unit in our,
expensive.
now, in our kennel facility, which is,
Talking
Of course, you
about
don't
ones
have
with
the door
hose.
spanning in and open. That hurts too.
yeah, exactly. But that's what, we just have like one of the mini splits in our kennel area.
What is that?
It's like its own little air conditioning unit. Like we have our central HVAC system
Mhm.
for the rest of the clinic, but the kennel's like its own separate area. And it's probably the same size, different shape, but the same size as the kennel. We have like
Like a
13 kennels
Like
in
a
ours.
small hotel
But-
room.
Yeah,
Like
but
we
it's
put
an
it down
individual
there at the
control.
voting room.
It's an individual
Voting
control,
machines.
its own unit.
Those were-
Where'd you get that?
We have those.
We had,
It has to be
we
installed.
had Terry's install it.
I think it's called a split unit.
Terry City, cool, that's another place,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But I would, if nothing else, I'd go over to Tractor Supply and get one of those.
They have them at price, and they're about $430,
The
$430.
ones I'm talking about were about $239, I thought.
Okay,
Are
I
you
must-
talking about the big 4-footer?
I looked at the big ones, yeah, that's what he had on the shelf.
But the thing is that, those kennels, they got walls between them, so if you set one on the floor, you're only gonna get one or two dogs.
I was thinking set it at the head and just get
Like
some
air
air movement
fans. Yeah,
down
it's
through
better
it.
air
Because, yeah, you're
movement.
not gonna,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I mean, it's
get some
the
air
building
flow.
needs love. It needs more than love. It needs
It
more than
needs a
love.
little
Needs
more
to-
love.
It needs a D9 dozer.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, what else do you have on your report, Lindsay?
Oh, we guys went through the outdoor kennel, kitten season's here. I have a new employee, he's been great. He has jumped right in. See, I wanted 2 new part-time people, one Sunday through Wednesday, one Wednesday through Saturday. We've got our Sunday through Wednesday, and that boy, we needed a boy on the staff to just even it out. Too much estrogen. He has jumped right in and been fantastic, so I'm really proud of him. We're still looking for somebody for Wednesday through Saturday. And that would be, and we've got 2 girls that are on call when I need them, who have been great with it, Ashlyn, and we've got a Lindsay Holly that's going to start, and just like an as-needed basis, in case somebody can't make it. We are trying to just truck along. One thing I have on here is I need the proper phone number for your Humane Society. Because I have the winery number, and we've gotten some calls lately about people, I know, I'm sorry. We've got some calls lately about people needing help, and I need the appropriate
Is
number.
it 3717 or 3717?
It was on our wall, now it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, they've had it up there before. It's 812-701-3717, I believe.
Okay, because I don't have that. I looked for it the other day and I could not find it, and it was somebody that was actually just wanting to get a hold of the Humane
They
Society.
found me.
Okay. Our spay and neuter clinic came to town. No news. I think they'll be back on September.
Excuse me, more, did you say 3717?
Yeah,
Okay. that's
Yeah.
what-
Did you say 701 or?
Sorry.
701-3717.
Our spay and neuter clinic's coming back September 8th. I do believe, September 8th.
How'd it go this past?
The first time we filled completely up
Yeah.
within under a month. This time they only filled 75 spots and only half showed up. But a lot of people that just walked up to the clinic dropping off random cats that didn't have appointments, she also took all of those in. Half those people abandoned those cats at the clinic, and they're now at the shelter at Birdjoy's office. So that is, they did not appreciate that too much.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 2
No.
litters of kittens and a regular size and an adult cat. They just walked up, dropped them off, so they weren't coming back for them. They paid for their spay and neuter.
Well, they did pay, but
Yeah.
they just didn't come back.
2 of them did.
Oh.
Now there's 1 litter of kittens that they gave vouchers to.
Can they be like,
I have
is-
all the information. of the
yeah, is
people.
there a way,
Yeah.
do we have anything on the books, like,
Yeah, there's,
Like,
we,
we can-
there's, you had
yeah.
mentioned earlier, there's no need for
Would
any
that be a bad-
additional ordinances on the
Just
enforcement
like
side.
drop
Almost
them on
all
the
of
road.
that
Just
falls
like
under
enforced.
state statute as such. And there's actually some prohibition from writing ordinances that overlap what state already has laws for. And there is plenty of laws on Indiana's books as far as abandonment of
We just
animals and abuse and neglect and so forth to be able to enforce those things.
yeah, but we just need to
To enforce it.
do a training on maybe enforcing them and letting them know what laws we do have on the Indiana books. But I will say, like, if you look at other communities, I don't know if we would ever reach this, but I think it's Hamilton County, they passed some ordinance that, go further because we can go further than what the state has on the books. Actually, Marion County has an ordinance on tether laws where during this heat wave, dogs out on tethers, that's illegal. You will get fined for that if they do not have access to a pooled facility. And so I would say we do need to maybe explore that, because if we want to focus on the humane treatment of animals, it's even outside of the shelter, and educating people. I drove by and saw so many dogs on chains over the last 2 days, and it's horrifying to me, and I know that there's nothing that allows us to enforce that. Because neglect is vague, it's vaguely defined in state code.
It really is.
What I see as neglect might be different than what someone else sees as neglect.
Old news.
Old business, yeah?
Oh, I have had, we do not do public euthanizing.
No, we
No,
just all said
for
that.
people who bring their animals in that are their pets, they don't want to take them to a vet, they want me to, I don't do that, okay?
Correct.
That's a liability on the shelter and the county and everything else, and so many things could go wrong with that. But I have had a lot of people in the past 3 or 4 months call or show up at the door wanting me to do it. I'm going to make it clear that I do not.
Correct.
Can we post it, the shelter will not, or do you think those,
I can, yeah. I mean, I had one guy that just, I don't know how, wasn't gonna take no for an answer, so I called and made the appointment with the vet that he normally goes to, and then turned around and he never went. So,
that's what he did?
I don't, and I mean, they could take him straight
Shoot
in.
up the morning paper.
They could take him straight in, like you literally drive down the road and they'll take you in 5 minutes, and he never showed up.
Probably saw it as I'd have to pay at my vet and the shelter can do it for free.
And that same day, I had 3 other calls from separate people wanting me to euthanize their animals. I just don't do that.
I think we were all in agreement that that is not something we
Yeah,
will do.
I just need the public to know that. I need the
Yeah.
public to know that that is not a shelter service.
Are you
that we
concerned
do.
that they'll dump the animals if you don't euthanize?
Yeah, I
Not
don't
that I'm
know how you're
suggesting that you
separating that
do,
out.
I'm
That's
just
interesting.
saying that,
I don't know.
okay.
That guy,
Man, it's
he
tough.
made a threat about what he was gonna do. I'm not gonna repeat it, but
I know.
I thought, since we set him up at that appointment, they'll take you in 5 minutes, and he just didn't show up, so you have to think the worst, but I just can't wrap my mind around people's decisions.
Have any of the animals been healthy?
Did you see the animal?
That's the only one I physically saw.
And was the dog or cat healthy?
It was old, and it was an old dog, and its back end was going out, so it was its time. But he needed to do it properly at his vet's office.
Yeah.
I just don't do that. Bless his heart, I just don't do that.
No, that's not the county's role. to do
No.
that.
And then, vouchers. 10 dog vouchers so far this year have went out. All have been redeemed, so people are being responsible. North Madison had 3, Madison Animal Clinic has had 6, Pet Docs had 1. Only one of these was just for rabies. The dog was already spayed and neutered, and that was Pet Docs. And then cats, 18 vouchers have been made this year. 6 are still pending because the cats are not old enough. Appointments have been set up and made. Walt's 3, Madison Animal Clinic 11, Pet Docs 4.
And for clarity on that real quick with the vouchers, just in case public doesn't know,
If you
that
adopt
is if they
from us.
adopt and the animal's not had its vet care and spayed and neutered.
Right, and I first ask them, do you have a vet of your choice? If not, I'll just set you up with one.
And they still pay the adoption fee.
Yes, and so far people are being really responsible about these, and that's great. That's encouraging. It's encouraging. And then the vet appointments in general, just from April 1st to current, these are just everything. Spay, neuter, rabies, emergencies, routine. Madison Animal Clinic's at 39. Waltz has 18. Pet Docs 1, North Madison none, Carroll County 32. So that's my old news.
Security cameras, are they working yet?
No, I need them.
Back on your people wanting them euthanized, and how do you tie that in with your owner relinquish? Are you accepting animals that would be in need of vet care on owner relinquish?
I have not come across that problem just yet. Strays, I've
Because
had,
how are you going to handle if they come in and they're wanting the animal euthanized? Of course, we're not going to do that. And they said, oh, but you do owner relinquishes here, here's the dog.
right, well, they would
It's
have,
yours to deal with.
They have
What
to
I
sign
would-
it over though.
yeah, but what I would encourage them first is they need to set up an appointment with their vet's office, because I personally am not comfortable taking a dog that they're just surrendering, so I can kill them. So the answer is no.
Which also happened with Albert. Albert needed vet care and it was,
Yeah, Albert's a good, yeah.
Albert's a great dog, but Albert needed vet care and Lindsay, they tried to manage that, and then Albert got dumped.
So we
Yeah.
take healthy animals from owner relinquish, right?
Yeah.
And ill animals, we do not. They'll be assessed when they come in?
If, the way I look at it is if you're bringing me your animal just so you don't have to go through the responsibility of euthanizing it, no, I'm not gonna take it. That is your responsibility to that animal to give it a proper ending. There's a lot of gray area there, like say you have an elderly person who's going into an assisted living center, their idea of a healthy animal may not be my idea of a healthy animal. Am I gonna turn that animal away? No, because they're not gonna be able to take it anyways. You can tell when somebody walks in and just wants you to take a burden off their back, then we sit down and have a talk.
I have a question kind of about that. So, I know the Humane Society helps people who reach out to the Humane Society with spay and neuters. do they help if like an animal came in and someone's like, I just can't afford the vet care? Does the Humane Society have a program where they can help with vet
We
care?
ask a lot of questions and treat those on a one-on-one basis as
So
such.
if someone came in with a relinquish because the animal's unhealthy, and you can tell it's unhealthy and that maybe they just can't afford vet care, is that something that she?
No, we don't want in the middle of that.
She should not, no, she should not say like, hey,
No,
you need to take your.
we have talked to them as such. We appreciate, instead of just passing the buck down the road, that if there's a particular situation, the shelter's evaluated it to a certain extent, pick up the phone, the shelter pick up the phone and call the Humane Society.
Okay.
And we'll discuss the particulars on that and so forth. We don't want to be put in the position to where we're the one just to deliver the bad news, you know, as such.
Well, I'm saying,
certain
just
amount
say
of that.
like, there's like an animal that just needs like vet care, but that person can't pay for the vet care. And it's not like a euthanasia case, we're talking
It's-
just like kind
It
of
all
a
varies,
sick,
they can be,
it's
for
like upper
example,
respiratory infection type thing.
it still could be a matter
still
as to how
want
many dollars.
Lindsay to
You
call.
know, we will ask questions as what their abilities to provide for the animal long care term, since they can't afford this, whether the animal's been spayed or neutered, whether it has rabies
But
vaccinations.
you don't want Lindsay to say, we can't help with vet care, but the Humane Society,
No,
might, you want Lindsay to
if there's
call.
that particular situation, we want Lindsay or one of the
Okay.
staff to call and discuss those situations. And
Okay,
we'll
okay.
make a decision as to where to go on that. And we've
Okay.
done that a few times with them.
Because I know you
And,
help with
you know, there's
spay
times we make
neuters.
decisions, if it's if it's a possibility that it was going to be a $700-800 vet bill, no, we're probably not going to pay a $700 or $800 vet bill. You know, we have limited resources and we'd rather spread that over 7 or 8 animals than to put that much money into one animal. And so there's a lot of variances there.
Okay, I just wanted clarity on that.
And that you deal with a little bit of everything. You know, it's not any different. We get into the situation to where they brought the animal into the local vet that's been hit by the car, and the vet won't see it because they haven't got any money, period. And so, you know, the vets are in the same position we are. They evaluate as to what they can handle financially on those issues, and so, you know, we'll be the next place they'll call at times on those situations.
Usually I only hand out the phone number when they ask for the phone number for the Humane Society.
And, you know, we
Okay.
try to have some
Yeah.
hard conversations with them ahead of time, and also if we're sending them over to a particular vet, we usually talk to the vet ahead of time as well, that is willing to let them know that, you know, for all practicalities, if this is huge dollars, it may be more economical or even long-term condition as to what the overall life of the animal is going to be ongoing. They're not easy conversations to have.
Yeah, I don't believe they are, but I was curious how far the Humane
Yeah.
Society
Yeah.
goes in those sort of things, because I know you do spay and neuters, so.
No, we do low-income veterinarian care as well.
Okay,
Try to ask enough questions to see if they're on some type of public assistance, see if they can afford to pay at least some portion of it or so forth,
So case by case.
case-by-case basis. And it's hard because I don't think most of the local vets, they won't accept an animal on payment basis as such, and, you know, so.
I think that owner relinquish is a tool we could use in some cases, though, don't you?
Mhm.
Like the one that the relatives left the dog and this person didn't want to mess with it, remember? You know the one I'm
And
talking
that
about,
burden was put on
which
Janet.
it was a-
Yeah.
which was a very adoptable dog.
It definitely was.
Young and
very
had a lot of
adoptable
life,
dog.
and so in a case like that, I think that again, it's case by case basis. You know,
Yeah.
if it's vicious and a bit 2 or 3 people, okay, but this would have made it a good, but anyway,
I gave them that option.
I know, and they wouldn't do
They
it, so.
wouldn't
you're
do
gonna
it.
make her upset, Bobby?
Huh?
You're gonna make her upset again?
That
No, it
upset
bothered
me
me
too.
too.
That was
I
my
know.
day,
I
yeah.
know.
I
Poor
was
Janet,
very-
I felt so bad for Janet.
Very familiar with the animal, and it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
I didn't have any control over it, so.
I-
Anyway.
Yeah, I didn't understand that decision either.
What are our hours now of being open to the public? How many
Right.
days a week and what are the hours?
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 12 to 5. I would like to up it. I need a Wednesday through Saturday person. I need one more person for the weekend shift. I can do it, it's no
So
problem.
we're 3 days,
Tuesday.
3 days a week now?
Tuesday, Thursday,
What
Saturdays.
were the hours once
Tuesday,
more?
Thursday,
12 to
Saturday.
5.
So about 15
4
hours
on
a week.
Saturday.
Yeah.
It's about
It's
15
4
hours.
o'clock on Saturday.
4 on
Yeah.
Saturday.
I would
So
really like to up
15
it.
hours.
But I need a solid foundation to do that.
And again, if you go in there and you volunteer, how long did it take us to clean that building the day I was there? And it was Valerie, Ashlyn, Jessica, Chelsea, and me. And the girls got there around 8, I got there around 9. I think there was a kid group that came in around 11, and for that amount of time with that many people on hand, just full on cleaning, it took, we were like, oh my gosh, are the kids here, because there was a kindergarten class coming in, like still trying to clean up the facility.
Oh, that was
So-
Good Friday, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, if you do it right, it takes about 5-6 hours.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
that was a full-blown, I would say, full staff that day but it was crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. 2 of us,
Yeah.
Valerie focused on like washing dishes and all of that, and then 2 of us focused on cats, 2 focused on dogs. Then the 2 on the cats moved to the lobby and then moved to adoption room of just cleaning it all up. And it took that long. And it's just, the animals are messy.
They are very messy. They're messy
Especially
all
kids.
throughout the day. Yeah.
It's been
So,
13 years and my dog hadn't got a job yet.
yeah, I mean, it's like, so I would say, yeah, that's the minimal hours. I don't think you could
Yeah,
open before
We
then.
had system, when we were at the shelter, you were talking about volunteering, I was there many days, so, the Humane Society ran the shelter for a certain period of time, and we ran the shelter, we had a greater intake than what you currently have, had less financial resources. We ran it with a volunteer, full-time director basically there, and 2 paid staff. And then the rest of it, we filled in with the volunteer side of it. And there were things that we did that cut down on having mess all day long. Dogs, for example, were fed first thing in the morning and then walked. And that got rid of a lot of the mess not being in the kennels themselves. And then there wasn't food after that. You didn't leave food out in front of the dogs all day long. Until evening, and then you repeated the process some of the day, and you had them out in the walking, the outdoor kennels, and then you could clean the inside kennels, and you could knock it out fairly quick.
You're still gonna come into messes though. There's gonna be dogs who have accidents in their kennels in the cat
Oh, you're
room.
gonna have some of it, yes, but
Especially
there's
with cats though,
procedures that can cut
it's like
down.
endless cleaning litter.
Mhm.
And kitten season right now, it does stink in there. I told Lindsay that.
It really
but
does, and
there's-
when they're in the lobby, I don't,
Yeah, they're in the lobby and the kittens are just, I don't know if you've smelled kitten poo, but it is
It's pretty
terrible.
bad,
It is absolutely terrible,
Yeah.
and it's just endless, and they're the messiest things. I don't like kittens for
Problem is
that.
the absence of the cat room.
They torture me.
What's
but-
that?
The problem is the absence of the cat
Cat
room.
room.
Hannah's correct, because a cat room you can do a lot more with, and it's a lot easier to manage. So if they're needing funding for a cat room, that can get done, but that is essential for their staff, because they're just gonna be emptying kitty litter.
It's endless.
It's at least once a day, if not twice a day.
Oh,
It would
it's
be nice to
endless.
have
And then there's some
building
things
where
you can
they
do
run in the
between
lobby.
cat room
Yeah.
and kitten room that make a difference.
All of us
So-
would
Yeah.
love a cat room. I think it's great for
Yeah.
adoption process to go in and see like how the cats interact with you. I think it's great for the cats. I think it would make it easier because cleaning those litter boxes, that was torture. And then cleaning where the kittens decide to throw it all up the wall, that's torture too.
I have a comment about that that's going to be unpopular with the group, but we've tried that numerous times in the past, and we ended up getting ringworm and other things. So unless we change our habits, if we create this cat room, we're going to have to change our habits of how we maintain it, or like they say, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So we will have to have a good plan in place of how are we going to keep the same thing from happening one more time. So
Yeah,
Dr. Barron, wouldn't you agree with that we've had a wreck on that
Yeah.
road numerous times?
We're still gonna need 3 areas.
Yeah, you'll still need
We're We're gonna need the intake area to monitor and to figure out where they're gonna go from there. We're gonna need the sick room, and we're gonna need the adoptable animals. Once they're in the adoptable area, I'm not saying diseases can't be spread, but it would be easier to put all those cats in a cat room. It would be so ideal to have something like that where there would be absolutely no animals in that lobby.
Yeah. And it would be a constant monitoring those cats, and Joy did a great job of coming out and helping you with like the upper respiratory infections in the cats, and that could be something, I don't know if she'd be willing to, I'm kind of volunteering you, to like train staff, all staff, on what they need to be doing to manage that sort of cat room, but it's successful in shelters across the country. It's,
Yeah.
So, but
it's successful.
We're currently open to the public 3 days a week,
Currently.
12 to 5.
I would really like to be, I'd like to be closed on Sundays and Mondays and then open the rest of the time. That's just my experience in the other shelters I've been in, those are the popular hours.
Is-
Are we being pretty reliable on being open this 12 to 5 on the days that we're posting?
Is there ever, is there a possibility of being open later in the evenings too on those days? Like, do you have the staff that you need to make that happen? Or would that fall on you to be there even more?
That's a discussion I would have to have with them to make sure it doesn't, because right now they're pretty steady on 5 o'clock. There's some of them that do stay until 6 and 7 sometimes to get some extra things done. I don't think it would be a problem, but it would only be one person able to do it. I would have to do it. I don't mind doing
Yeah,
that.
I think that would even help to cut down on messes if the
But-
dogs are getting out like a little bit later in the
Yeah.
evenings, like if they're brought out
And,
once
uh,
more,
That
7,
would-
8 o'clock.
That would have to be a staff discussion
Yeah.
because I can't just throw them into that and
What-
say, we have extended hours now. I need to sit them down.
What
and tell
time
them.
does staff come in normally?
9,
They come in at 9?
8 or 9, in between 8 and 9.
Is there a set time, or is it?
Some of them, Valerie's usually there at 8, rest Jessica 9, Chelsea 9:30.
Okay. And then are you usually there at the same start time?
Before 10. I'm usually there until 6 o'clock in the evening. So I come in a little later. That's why I hire the staff to do that, to do those things in the
Yeah,
mornings, and then I
I mean,
come
that's
in.
why you have staff, to help with those sort of things.
I mean, 6 days a week at 12 hours a day isn't feasible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Lindsay's on call all the time, but it doesn't necessarily mean she needs to be at the shelter all the time. And I don't think if it's the board's responsibility to tell her what her hours need to be, it's the county commissioners. Because she does report to the county commissioners, and I don't think under any circumstance should any member of this board go up to the shelter and get on to Lindsay for her attendance.
you know, I'm at the building.
You are.
I'm at the building.
I go in the
I mean,
evenings
if you
to
look
check
at me in the
in
evenings, you're gonna be
occasionally,
able to
and
tell.
I have been there till 7:30 and Lindsay's been there. So, if you have a problem with her attendance,
I don't think anyone's went up to the shelter and said anything, at least.
that's not what I've heard, so I'm just gonna
Ask Lindsay,
clarify.
if you're talking about me in particular, have I been to the shelter and said anything to
I'm
you
not getting in
about
the
your
middle of any of
attendance?
this. I'm not
Yeah,
getting in the
just
middle
that
of
has
any of
not
this.
occurred. Now, it's a difference, this board does have a responsibility to be aware and to collect information. I understand completely that the commissioners would set the hours and so forth. But if
Bobby,
the
do you
board
have any
doesn't,
problems
if the
with
board
Lindsay?
doesn't understand what's going on there, they need to, they
You're the
have.
director. I don't need to micromanage.
Yeah,
That's the reason we hired you, so
So,
I've
I'm
got your
there,
back on
guys.
You are.
I'm there, I promise I'm
that.
there.
She's been there every time I've ever been up
I've
there.
never gone there and not had her except for one day where she did have off.
Well, that Thursday.
And I said, I'm gonna
Friday, go.
volunteer that day, and there I was, and I worked with Valerie that day. So, and I mean, that's why you have an assistant manager too, so there's a balance. And I know you're starting to work some weekends to,
Yeah, because sometimes it's nice to work on the weekends and have a day off through the week where nobody else is there to bombard you. I don't mind.
yeah.
I absolutely do not mind.
And I think as the director, it's a problem that we run into in City Hall too with department heads, is that a lot of times you don't see us. It doesn't mean we're not working. It means maybe we're there we're having a meeting with someone, there's something else going on. But we do see that where some of the staff gets upset because they don't always see the director sitting there in their seat.
Yeah, I'm on the move some,
But
mainly on Mondays.
Yeah.
A lot of Mondays, I'm on the move.
there's been days that I'm not in my seat at all because I'm in
Yeah.
meetings and, oh well, if someone complains.
Especially every other Monday, I'm on the move, so.
And also you're allowed time off. You were given vacation days and you do have comp hours.
Well, I mean, everybody has to understand that. That's why I put a staff in place, so I can do the things more behind the scenes and maintain that.
Which
The
is
staff
important.
needs to run the building.
Yes, it's their responsibility to run the
Yeah.
building, so you can be working on the things behind the
Yes.
scenes that need to happen, such as getting us air conditioning, that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, you know?
Yeah, we need air conditioners so bad, just can't.
Maybe there needs to be the commissioners. I don't know, Lindsay needs to be able to manage her staff without feeling like her staff's coming against her, and her staff needs to be understanding of her responsibilities as the director.
And you nailed it right now. You're right.
And if they can't be
Yes.
understanding, then they don't need to be on the team.
Yes, and
And that's your
I
call
don't
to make.
need them to think that I don't know that they're not understanding, because I do.
Yes.
So, I have ears too, so,
So just to be real clear, when the public complains about not being able to reach the director, you want them to go direct to the county commissioners.
I mean, if that's their complaint, that's who they go over me to get a hold of, but I'm not hard to get a hold of.
I just want to remind you that
Yeah.
part of what was wrong with Jenny was never being at the shelter. So I think the public is really overly sensitive about that. Jenny just wasn't there.
She wasn't,
And
because
so
she was allowed to sit at home.
I just want to make sure, because it's on video tonight, so that's what the
Yeah.
public's going
Oh,
to hear.
absolutely, yeah.
To go to the county commissioners with their
And
concern rather than
it
the
would be
board.
nice if you.
And that's okay, I'll make sure
I mean,
that the
that's
public
how-
does that.
That's how the
It would
rankings work,
be-
isn't it? Like, if you have a problem with
Yeah.
it, you go to the commissioner.
I've been referring them to the shelter board, I'll just tell them. the
It
commissioners
would be
know.
nice, I haven't had anyone referred to me, I just wanna clarify, I've not had one single person referred to me by Tammy, have you?
Had no complaints.
Yeah, no complaints.
My point
I've
on
had
it is,
complaints against the building, which I think,
Yeah, get put
we
in
can
there.
get to there, it's on my list, but I think that I haven't had any complaints come to me. I think you're doing a great job, I think that the public needs to understand that you would be there more if you weren't running around having to take the dogs to vet care appointments and all of those things, but
That's what the director's being
well,
used for.
yeah, I don't,
I do, well,
Because
some
you're
of them request
understaffed.
it, some of them
Yeah.
are starting to request me. And that, hey, that's fine, that's completely fine.
I prefer that, for the most part, whenever necessary, that, first off, set our hours, I'm not trying to set those, but I do think that there should be a set arrival time, whatever it is. I mean, City Hall, the department heads and so forth don't get to wander in just whenever they
We do,
choose to, as such.
because if we work late hours,
Yeah.
we
But
can come in later.
I
Mr.
disagree,
Auction.
I disagree with that as such. I
That's
think in
fine
this-
if you disagree,
I
you
think
can
in
take
this
it up with the mayor.
situation, we should, I'm not talking about that, in the situation of the shelter, there should be a normal time that Lindsay is expected to be there in the mornings. It would be helpful for the public in general, if someone's needing to talk to the director, for the staff to say, well, she gets here between 9 or 10.
Are you
That's-
in by noon? When the shelter's open to the public?
Absolutely, yeah,
When the shelter's open to the public, you're there.
absolutely, yes.
No, but there's a great deal of the public calls and so forth that come in the mornings as well. And it would be helpful, and staff as well, to be able to count on that our director here is at such and such time.
Well, I think the
And then it
commissioners
would
can
be
have that
helpful as
conversation.
well, if there's errands to run and so forth, that should be staff more so.
You're correct, and people should be able to have staff, but there are vet offices who have requested that staff does not bring animals in.
And then we've got a problem with the staff
We
that
have a
needs to
problem
be
with one
addressed.
particular person
That
on
the
staff.
staff needs to be addressed on that issue and so forth, because
Then should that staff
Lindsay's
member be let
value
go?
is far more being in the shelter.
I agree.
To deal with phone calls and make the contacts
I
than out
agree.
running errands and so forth.
I agree, we have got to get the staff to that point, and that may mean we need to let go of a one particular person.
And animal control could be doing some of that transportation to
They do.
the vet's
They
office.
do.
I'm
and
gonna
so
let that be known
And
that
I've had
they
a
do, they
conversation
really do.
with Janet about what would be helpful for animal control, and with it just being her and Paul, she said one more animal control officer would be helpful, because that's it, it's her and Paul, and they're each other's backups.
Coming from that
That's
line
it.
of work,
She
I can
said
tell
it
you.
would be really helpful to have one more animal control officer.
It startled me. A backup animal control officer for this county to give them a little leeway,
Yeah.
like an on-call officer, that would be great for them. I'm gonna tell you something right now, that's not an easy job. It's not, so I think that they both deserve a little break, because they've been working their tails off for me for the last month, trying to get animals home before they make it to the shelter. Paul, just in the past 48 hours, has returned 5 dogs straight to their owners before they have made it through the shelter, because he has just worked hard on it.
I have a question about that. With their schedules, are they
7.
open on the week, is animal control on call on the weekends, or no? Do we?
Yeah, they do,
Okay,
they
so
rotate.
I didn't know
Yeah.
if we needed to get like, where there's someone also
Yeah,
helping with that.
they rotate, so
And it's a discussion that I've had with the city to say, hey, this is something that Janet spoke to me about and believes would be incredibly helpful. I'm not sure if we can look at adding that into our funding for the next budget year, but it's something that I've brought to the mayor and to the deputy
Yeah.
mayor.
It, just like this morning, they were swamped. There were 5 calls deep at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, I got phone calls at 8 o'clock in the morning. They're 5 calls deep at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're having to help each other. It would be so helpful to have an as-needed on-call
Oh, yeah.
animal control officer to take some of that leeway off so they can do the difficult cases, and somebody else can be doing the welfare checks.
Yeah.
And that the third officer could also help you as a shelter. when-
Absolutely,
when
yes.
they're not needed.
Yeah. And
Or
Janet,
Janet.
oh my God.
Listen, I'd probably crumble and fall
Oh,
apart if it was not for Janet.
Janet is in there like helping with those dogs, taking them out.
Yes.
Like-
Janet, I'm gonna tell you something right now. Janet's the
She's
best
a rock
colleague I've
star.
ever had.
Yeah, she's a rock star.
So Ray, where would that fall in as far as budget if we got another backup animal control? I mean, I assume falls under the sheriff and
Paul's
Janet
under the county and
city.
Janet's under the city.
The tricky part would be where would you put them under?
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
yeah, so that's where we would have to figure that out. It would have to be like an overall conversation between the county and the city to figure out.
Although I
Because
miss
you're not
animal
gonna
control,
be able to
please
do
overlook me.
everything.
Like, I
Well,
could
I
do
mean-
it to some extent, but please
No.
overlook me on this. I got
Regardless, we're gonna have a new sheriff, and
Yeah,
I think there's some
good changes.
staffing shuffle that could happen where we could
Yeah,
take one of the positions from the jail, move it over to sheriff, and
so there's a possibility. It's something to probably, for the county to start the discussions about, with budget season coming up. I don't know
So I
if
feel
it's
like it would
considered a
have to
season.
be county because you would
Yeah.
want them to be able to do
Everything.
everything. And Janet's
Does-
not allowed to go out of city
Does
limits.
Janet?
she does.
Yeah,
Does she?
She does if Paul can't.
or if she's on
Yeah.
call.
Because you want it to be somebody that can do everything.
yeah, yeah, I would agree. So it might be a discussion for the county to have.
We could maybe split it.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Split
like
employee.
if they were 5 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah, yeah, like a split
And
employee.
they could come in like maybe 8 to 1 till morning chaos and everything's,
Yeah,
unless that other, like Janet or Paul's on vacation or
yeah.
comp time or
Oh,
something.
yeah, yeah.
They could, as long as they didn't run over their part-time status.
But I think one thing that like we're seeing is that, and it happens in City Hall too, where the departments heads are having to do tasks that should be allocated down to staff, and it may be just because we're understaffed or just have a transition of staff. But one thing with Lindsay having to run and do these roles is staffing, and really we need to reassess staffing and the dollars we are able to offer to these staff members. And then again, as I brought up in a very long time ago, of maybe defining those positions better, of the roles and responsibilities of those staff members, so it can be better managed.
That is one thing I will push for. Go ahead.
Have you ever considered having an overnight person that actually, I know if you feed dogs at
No,
5 o'clock,
yeah.
there's going to be about 2 hours when they all need to go out. That would save a lot of time. If you had a janitorial type
Right.
person that was doing cleanup at night that didn't need to be supervised, you know, that would-
Paul's of Dearborn County has that, and it works
I
wonderful
think
for
that
him.
would be huge, because that's gonna take a lot of the cleanup from the people in the morning.
Right.
Which
I
would
mean, I
allow
don't
you to
mind.
open earlier, but do
Exactly.
we wanna open earlier, or do we wanna be open in the evenings when people are off work, is the other conversation to have.
Well, if you have enough staff, you
Yeah.
can be open
But
for
leaving dogs
all day.
12 to 14 hours at night, you're gonna have cleanup in the morning, especially if
Right.
you feed them at a reasonable, I mean, you can feed dogs at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then if there's
I would
not.
agree with that.
But having someone there that's dedicated to that and cleaning,
Mhm.
that would leave it open and ready to go in the morning where everything's
Would be
cleaned
ideal.
up.
One thing I'd like to point out too on this is, so budget happened before Lindsay was on board, so she had no like oversight of her budget. They're done like mid-year, and so the budget didn't really allocate for what we needed, but now because the
Right.
board is more involved, and then Lindsay's here, she can really say like what she needs, and the budget can be better
I
developed.
think a night shift person would take a lot of pressure off your day shift people to get things organized
Also
and
helps
put
with
in
safety.
place.
That is
They
a good
could be
idea.
doing the dishes, you know, your
Yeah.
towel, they could run laundry at night. I mean, it's not that hard to do,
Yeah.
if you're there by yourself.
And socializing the
And there
animals.
should be a
and-
camera there at
Yes.
all times, you
Yeah,
know?
and I really,
Yeah.
really would like it to get to a point where like this staff can have those sort of things
Yes.
done, so that the volunteers can actually, you know, spend time
Yes.
socializing the animals, walking the dogs, playing with the cats, those sort of things, rather than having volunteers come in and have to clean, because that's where we're at.
One other thing, before I forget, you post on social media about your hours, and I question them going, I wish they
Yeah.
were open, but I have to say, in her defense, she said, if these hours don't work for you,
Yes,
let me know. I will make
Absolutely.
an appointment for you,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we can come in.
and that's been our whole staff,
Right.
will still do
Exactly,
that,
I
yeah.
don't think it's enough hours, but I understand the staffing issue
I
at
don't
this
think it's
point. I
enough
get
hours
it.
either.
Yeah.
I've been there too, when they've been,
Yeah.
it's a non-open to the public day, and someone's like knocked on the door and they open it.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or if somebody wants to meet a certain animal and those days don't work with them, we always
Yes,
schedule
yeah.
on a
But
different
trying to
day.
have everybody cleaning at the same time you're having people come in, I was
It's
there
hard.
and experienced it one day,
Chaos,
and it's tough.
It's chaos, yeah.
It's chaos.
it's chaos, yeah.
There's not all room in here for two people
It's
cleaning, let
so
alone
small.
people
It's-
walking through.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah, the cat room definitely needs to be pushed
Oh.
out of the front office.
Yes,
It's-
yes it does.
Yeah.
It isn't an attractive smell when you come in,
Mm-mm.
no matter what
Especially
you do,
during kids.
whether you're cleaning,
Yeah.
it's not good.
And one other thing that would really help with that is a perimeter fence.
I have a solution
Yeah.
for you.
Just
Saying.
turn me loose with the money.
I mean, because if you had like that night person, you would want them to feel secure on the property, and
Exactly.
you would want them to have a space where they could
They could
frolic
take,
and
and they could take a dog out, go
Yes,
potty.
that has
as
a
we know.
motion light on it, yeah.
Exactly.
But it needs to be a secure space to where nobody can get into them or bombard them or
Bring a
attack
line item,
them.
or
or-
is it just
It
in
just hasn't been done.
purgatory or
It needs
what?
to be, it just, the paperwork hasn't been completed. But
Is
it's
that
$9,000.
and the state money?
Uh-huh.
I have paperwork.
It just needs to be
Right at the
completed.
shelter. I gave it, the first time I got it, I took it to the auditor's office, but
Yeah, and if it's completed, that's $9,000. That paper
there's
is
some
done.
nice
information.
I can get it quoted again.
Yeah, there's
Just
some
because I'm
information.
sure it's when
in
those
there.
But let's
things
get
are
that
out.
taken
Fill
care
that
of. Who
paper
does
out.
she need it? It has to, it can't be you that fills it out. It has to be,
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
Yeah.
It has stuff on it that it can't, so I
Yeah.
have paperwork, so I'll bring it
maybe
down.
just go sit down with the auditor's office and
Mhm.
say, hey, let's just get this
It
done.
has stipulations on it?
No,
It asks for things like
Like
social
it-
security.
yeah,
numbers and
it asks
stuff,
for those
so-
sort of things.
No, I meant on
It
the
does
money.
not. No, it has,
Oh,
it just
no.
has to be given to the
It
animal
doesn't
shelter.
say to be used for specific.
It
It does
does
not.
not.
No,
Looks
Is
like
the
a
Parks-
fence would be a good item
yeah,
to use it.
Parks
Mhm.
Department got it and it was just for the Parks Department. She split it between Parks and shelter.
Find out and I'll get an up-to-date quote for the next meeting.
Yeah, because that would be perfect fencing money.
Tell the Parks Department to put in a splash park
Please.
with that money.
For the dogs, not the kids?
No, for the
Just
kids.
kidding.
Down
Okay,
Lorenz Park,
I feel like
there's
I've
a
never
huge
get
green
anything done
space that
yet.
never
Lorenz
gets used.
Park?
Yes. There is a huge green space that never gets used down there. They just cut the grass down there. It's a
You talking
huge
about for
place.
kids or dogs?
For kids.
That was my question. For the humans or the dogs?
I thought you meant, I was getting all
It can
excited,
be,
I thought you
yeah,
meant in
it
the
can be.
fenced in
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, multi-purpose.
Yeah.
I think our
Well, you
dog
can
park
take
should have
roller and
those
boat
too.
play, right?
Right, exactly.
That would
That
be
area-
neat.
I have big plans. I'm
Yeah.
not parks, but I have big plans for the parks.
That would be
But
neat.
there's sometimes you need to leave, like when you have to go to the auditor's office.
Yeah.
That's something staff can't handle, so
Right,
they don't need to.
right.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah,
but
there are
that's
times where I have to do stuff like that,
Fairly
yeah.
infrequent though, and your payroll and stuff like
Yeah, every other Monday, that's what I
Yeah.
try to do it.
I mean, there's sometimes you're just gonna be away from the office for your meetings and staff just has to be understanding that they're in those roles to be in those roles to provide support so you can do the things that need to be done.
If I'm off work, it's for a reason. You can bet that. It's just the way there's a reason.
Can I get a volunteer update from Valerie? You run you're our volunteer coordinator manager. Can you give me an update on volunteer?
Yeah, what do you want to know, like, what are they doing, or?
Yeah, like, how many volunteers, how are we recruiting volunteers, what sort of responsibilities are there, what sort of training are we doing for them?
Everybody that starts, that volunteers, comes in and sits down with me, and they fill out that volunteer form, and it asks them what their skills are, what are they interested in doing. One of the things that we started is Lindsay wanted to make them have a regular schedule where they don't just pop in whenever they want to. So I sit down and ask them kind of what their interest is, what their skill level is, whatever. I take them on a tour of the building, depending on what their skill level is. You know, if they want to walk dogs, I show them how to get the dogs in and out of the cages. Talk to them about which dogs are dangerous, show them outside, all those kind of things. So we train them according to what things they want to do. We have a lot of different people. We have people who all they want to do is wash dishes, do things like that. They don't want to handle the animals. We have a boy and his mom who come in and just walk dogs. We have another girl who comes in and she cleans the cat cages because that's what she wants to help do. So I mean, it just depends on what they want to
So
do.
if someone wants to volunteer, what do they need to do? How do they get to become a volunteer at the shelter?
They just contact us and let us know.
Okay, so do
And-
they reach out to you then on that?
I mean, they call anybody, but then what they do is we set up a time where they come in with me, and we usually sit down for about an hour. And like I said, I talk to them about what their interests are, what do they want to get out of the experience.
How many volunteers do you currently have? And how typically?
That are active volunteers, maybe
Go behind the camera.
probably under 10.
Under 10, and then how active are they? Like, what's the typical volunteer dedication? Hours.
Oh, how many hours?
It's like, how many, it's like an average person, are they dedicating 1 hour, 2 hours, what are they?
Again, we just had a girl that just started on Saturdays. It's a high school girl. She comes in the last 2 weeks, she's been there for 4 hours. She comes there when we open and stays until we're closed. And so she's just learning, she'll sort newspapers, she's done laundry, or dishes, but she wants to do that kind of stuff.
It's needed.
Yeah, so like I said, it just depends on the person. We have a volunteer that was coming on Saturday, now she's coming on Monday morning. She's doing the dishes, which frees us up to do the dogs, so we get the dogs in and out quickly in the heat. And she usually stays about 4 hours, so I mean, like I said, it just depends on what they're doing. The boy and his mom come, and they're usually there for an hour, because she gets off of work, and they come from 4 to 5 on Thursdays.
The volunteer form that they fill out to become a volunteer, is that something that,
I mean, they are.
It's good too.
is that something that can be moved to being online? Is that a county question? Is it? Okay.
I just know there's a volunteer form there. I don't know who made it up. I don't know. All I know is that Heather White told me make sure everybody has a volunteer form on file, that they're always signing in and out, and, you know, just for the liability and everything, to make sure we always know who's in the building, what they're doing, what times and stuff like that. So I don't know who created that form.
Okay, so Lindsay, we might want to get with the county on the volunteer form of whoever's doing the website, because I know with that website you can build out forms and have a tab on the animal shelter page, volunteer for us, and then people
On
are
the new
able,
county
yeah,
website.
and then people are able to submit a volunteer application
Okay.
and go from there, because I think the word needs to get out more that we have volunteer programs, and then we need to make sure that the training is, because I know you had reached out, you had asked Tammy and Warren if they could provide you, like, the training files you guys have.
Right.
I've asked Ray to add me to the agenda tonight.
Okay,
On
So-
what you said?
I asked Ray to add me to the
Okay.
agenda tonight.
yeah, because we just need to make sure if that's something because I know that was something we wanted to do was the volunteer management. And I knew you asked them, so I wasn't sure if they got you those forms, because I think we need to make sure our volunteer training is very adequate and that
Well, it sounds like it needs to be a little more structured too.
ASPCA Pro website
Yeah.
has series, videos, trainings on volunteers. All you have to do is go to that website and it gives you all the information that you need.
Yeah, it's really important that we teach them to do things a certain way, because I don't want to go through what I went through when I first started with cats. The way she taught me how to do it, I'm not willing to budge off of. So it's really important that everybody that comes through the building sticks to that routine.
And with the volunteer program, if someone wants to volunteer, it's only Valerie who's training them, correct? So it's all consistent, or no?
I let her take over. Yeah,
Okay,
the volunteer program.
she's running the volunteer
And
program.
do we currently have a minimum age on volunteers?
Some of them are with their parents.
Some are with their parents.
Um,
But it's 18, isn't it? Unless they're.
It's 16 according to county, but yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
At least that's what it has been in I don't know if anybody's changed it or not, but in the past it was
There's not
16.
been any changes.
Yeah.
We were always 16, and we would not
Yeah.
accept them under 16 unless they had a legal guardian accompanying them while they were at the facility.
Yeah, which is what's happening.
We didn't want to get into being a babysitter
Right,
for
right.
the under 16.
Right.
Okay, so Valerie runs that, and then anyone that volunteers, they get with Valerie. Valerie trains them and helps, and sets their schedule, correct?
Well, they kind of said, I don't tell them when they come back, I
Oh,
say,
but
when are
then-
you wanting to?
Yeah.
Because I think everybody agreed, we don't just want a bunch of
Them
people
wandering
popping in
in,
once,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So according to what they want to do, they say, yeah, this is, like I said, the guy and his mom come in every Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So we can count on who's gonna be there, and we have
Yeah,
adequate
that's-
staff or
Okay.
whatever, yeah.
Have you
Okay.
ever considered having a handbook for your volunteers so
We'd
that,
love to get there.
oh, sorry.
No, we would love to get
Oh,
there.
I was
would,
gonna
like,
say.
I
you
would
could
love
have-
to get
so
to
they
have
had
a
a
handbook.
procedure.
I volunteered in the past for Inhumane, and it was like a full-on training. You had a handbook, you
Yeah.
had to sit in 2 days of classwork. You had to use a certain leash with the dogs, you had to do.
Kind of
there
weed
was-
out people.
There, yes, you have to weed out, because some people just, they're not gonna be comfortable with dogs, they may say they are. And they also had a program where they had different rooms for dogs, and if you weren't good with the big dogs, you got put with the small dogs, and you were not allowed to volunteer with the big dogs if you could not handle a big dog. Ideally, that's where I would like to see the shelter reach. I would like Valerie to really be focused on developing that program and making sure those training procedures are in place if that's gonna be her program, because I agree, there needs to be a handbook. There needs to be like really, really good training for those people.
And how?
And I get what you're saying, and we don't have the handbook, but I can tell you so far, we don't have very many dog walkers, because like I said, if they say, because we have one girl that wants to walk dogs and she can't handle the dogs, because I said, here's how you gotta get the dogs in and out, and for example, Cash, I said, you're gonna be airborne and things like that, so I show them, I do the dog walking and say, look, you would have to be able to handle this and stuff, so I just don't say, here's a leash, go at it.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
very
yeah.
careful, very careful about who's allowed to do what, and the girl that helps clean cats has a staff member actually right there with her every step of the way. We
When
don't
I
just-
volunteered, I had Chelsea right there with me.
Yeah.
Even though I have 5,000 animals,
Yeah.
Chelsea was right there with me with the cats. But I just think that we can bring more structure to it,
County would be
and then make sure that people know you're accepting volunteers, that would be helpful.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
the
another one
biggest
I don't
thing that you
remember
would
the
run into
meeting
is that
that
would
was
set
like
it
that.
up off the ground and put sand in there.
Society of
Because it
Animal
does flood
Welfare
so
vets.
bad out
They
there.
have
I
some
don't
training.
know what it was before, but
On the back of the building.
Okay, and then,
Ray, do you want me to give
There's
the
no-
Humane Society
access
update, or you
codes,
can wait a little bit?
just on the two
Oh,
sides.
let's
I
see if
can't
there's,
tell what it was.
yeah.
they're drawing, they're drawing
Rain a man,
pictures.
Ray.
That's all the way where the kennels are closed out, which
Just
is
one on each side of them.
Just like,
I just want to be on the end of the bunker then.
I have a couple other things, but if
It's
you
the only
wanna
place
go
I
first, Tammy, that's fine.
said
If you wanna
no.
get
Well,
the,
because it was on a
It's
lot,
screwed up
I
now,
think it would
because
be
that's
on
where
the
the
side
green
of
dogs
the
out.
house.
okay, that's fine.
Okay,
there's a
okay,
picture.
Tammy, go
There's a
ahead.
Tammy has an
picture of the
update,
property
or
right there.
she was, I'm gonna interrupt you guys. Tammy's gonna provide a Humane Society update.
Ray, are we ready to go
Yeah.
with me? Okay, thank you, sir.
My screen.
So, a couple things. The Humane Society has an opportunity to do a volunteer kind of training program in collaboration. And just want to make sure I got the right lady, and that's you, right? Because I'm really excited. I know you've done some work in the past, a long, long time ago. You've got some things down. So here's where we're at. We have a couple of young people that work for a local business through their Youth Works program. They have some community service things that they have to do as part of this program. And we, from the Humane Society members and donors, they've always kind of wanted a public education program that started in the schools on spay, neuter, pet care, and all of that. We have some teachers that are willing to help us develop that curriculum. Now, we won't see the benefit, in 6 months. It'll take us several years to see that whole process of kindergarten, 1st through 6th grade or 8th grade. And whenever appropriate, we can introduce the spay-neuter concept and try to get kids to start volunteering at the shelter through the high school volunteer program that they have at Madison Consolidated and at Southwestern. But what our youth can do in coordination is help set up some volunteer manuals for different people. We'll have our adults that will help with the adult training thing. But it would be bringing up some kids up there that would go through the process, but it would have to be with you and a person from the Humane Society, which in all honesty is gonna be me.
Yeah.
So you and I would have to work to get that whole thing structured out, bring the kids up, pilot it, see how it goes, get them trained, and then see how they test out with their peers so that they can support you in your training. So that if we have a youth program at the school, part of that manual or that class or that whatever videos that we provide the school system, and we haven't made any decisions yet, but we have to have the funding for that, to do all of that, to provide the printed material, the training manuals, help get the kids trained so that when they're in the school, they're also kind of student advocates for the shelter, trying to get students of the appropriate age to come in and volunteer. And so we have sort of want to try to develop a feeder system to your volunteer program, but of good students who have been trained or are being trained, at least initially, with some of the video and the manual or the little guidebook. And that would help strengthen your program. And we're going to try and work with the commissioners and the Humane Society, private donors, and different businesses to help get that in place. And I've got a lot of it already outlined in terms of certain things, but we want to run it through the commissioners. And I sent an email to the president of the commissioners, Mr. Lee, today on that proposal. So I would need to get with you if the shelter board is okay with that.
Right.
And your director is okay with that. So we could get a volunteer, some resources to your volunteer program, Hannah. And then some of the ideas that you're saying are actually already on the list, and you can feel free to email me all of that or stay in touch with Val on that. But I did want to touch base on that.
Well, have you already worked, like partnered with the schools then on that, or no?
What I have is I have a couple of teachers at several different grade levels, both Southwestern and Madison, that are willing to help us do a curriculum that is age appropriate for K through 6 and 8 through 12. And you don't get, there's certain ways you bring in spay neuter, or kittens are good, but you don't want to have kittens running everywhere. We don't want to have wildcats. There's a lot of stuff there that's more educational kind of thing, age appropriate, than what I could ever do. So we have those resources available to us through volunteer educators. It doesn't cost us anything. What will cost us, we can get the video photography and all that, but it may cost us a little bit to reproduce, to have them available on DVDs for schools, things like, so we have a whole library available.
Is it through like a program that already exists, or is it something like the Humane Society's like video?
The Humane Society has programs like that in different spots nationwide, but this would be new for our community. And most, to be really honest, like most communities don't have split school systems like we have here. You have one consolidated school system, so we have 2 school systems, 2 school boards that we'd have to go through. Those kind of issues, and then you've got volunteers from both sets of schools. So it's a little bit tedious to set up for us, more so than other counties. But there's a lot of examples and a lot of resources available, as Dr. Barron said. A lot of that, some of that we can get for free. Some of it does come at a cost. But the most effective programs are designed specifically for the shelter. Generic shelter videos don't always work so well because they just kind of cover one general kind of thing. But our shelter has some unique issues and that other shelters may not have, and we also have some unique assets that other shelters don't have.
Yeah, I just don't know if we could save costs on like the videos coming from, so the program I did in Indy, and I may have the volunteer coordinators email still, the videos they did were like, it was 2 full days of training.
Yes.
And because it talked about like how to handle a dog that may be sensitive to you.
And some of the things that can be done now, I know what you're talking about, I've been up to Indy Humane. A lot of that because it can just be emailed. And you can have, depending on what Val wants to do, you can have some checklists or little tests. There can be different ways to verify all of that. And there's a lot of more ways to get information out there. I'm not saying you're an old lady and you were up there 20 years ago. I'm just saying that things have progressed and we can do things a lot quicker with the internet.
We can get those, we can maybe get those videos like dropped, but I just think there needs to be promotion of the volunteer programs, but it first needs to have structure behind it.
Right, and that would be the biggest thing, would be lending that support to Valerie. and just picking her brain and hearing back from you guys. If you have some suggestions for it, you're gonna need to forward those to Warren and he'll get them to me. I will go ahead then and meet with Valerie and whoever Valerie then directs me to director or other staff or whoever. So let me know what you're thinking and what your, big giant wish list is for volunteers. I'm okay starting small with reasonable goals,
Yeah, I think that
but
makes
there's no
sense.
point in not knowing what the best solution is.
So
And
with,
then,
I got a question before it goes out of my mind.
sure,
With the younger kids, would that be a curriculum that is at their school?
Yep.
That they're going through at their school, because it's a liability to have little hands, that many little hands
exactly.
in the
So we're
shelter.
hoping to introduce something through the school board, and I made preliminary contact with both school boards on, and yes, they're interested, but again, we have to have something to show them. So it does take time and effort, and Val and I will have to work fairly close together. I'll go back to, and we'll have to have it approved through the commissioners and then through the shelter board, but I need to kind of get going on it because it takes a while to develop a really strong program. Again, it's not something that we can do in a couple of months. It's going to take a bit to get it to where, Hannah, to your level, it could be 9 to 12 months. But we're never going to get there if we don't start. And I can have it in incremental steps so the community and the board can see progress. But to get to where you want to go might take a bit, guys.
Can you, in the meantime, send the board an email of just like your general idea of how you see this laying out, if you don't already have that?
I'm actually, just know what I have. I don't have any specific plans without talking to Val.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
Val,
I think
And I'm
Lindsay-
gonna have to talk to
Yeah,
Lindsay
I
to
think
see
Lindsay-
what
yeah, I'd like to be
she's.
on it.
And rather than me go around all the different staff, I'm going to go to the volunteer coordinator, and then she's going
I'll
to
go
take
to
it.
Lindsay and.
So wherever
It
y'all
needs
need to
have
go,
be a
and then
conversation with.
Val and I will stay close together, and she'll be responsible for knowing what everybody wants. And then probably, once Val and I have something laid out, we can take it to the commissioners, I can take it to the businesses, I can take it to the donors, and we'll get that going.
And I told them, they're definitely, I love the idea that the Humane Society is gonna take, some initiative to bring education to our
So
schools
Peter,
and
maybe,
teaching people.
We
I
do a
love
lot,
that.
we do a lot of education, public education through our Facebook page and our email information.
Yeah, but like in the
But this,
schools,
I know that
it's-
your heart is with the shelter, and that's okay. I know that, you kind of feel like the Humane Society doesn't do a lot, but that's because you're not familiar with everything. We do, we absolutely, I'm responsible for special needs placement for dogs and cats. We fund heavily our local cat rescue. We work
I know
closely.
you do, because Shane told me.
That's right, and he has an
I know
open,
Shane.
he has an open budget, he
He's
can
a
spay and
nice
neuter any cat.
Who is that?
So,
Yeah, I just said
we
I'm
do a
glad to see
slow
this
cost
being
spay
brought
neuter
to
program.
kids.
Excuse
I'm
me?
glad to see education being brought
he's
to
a nice
kids.
guy.
'cause
Yes, and
That's a great
that's
place to
something that
start.
we're working on.
I think it's harder to change the mindset of adults than it is a child.
Yeah. I have a couple of things you guys need to be aware of. Complaints have jumped dramatically. And as Hannah has said, walk into the building, kitten poo smells, and so there's a lot
That
of
is bad.
concerns
I
about
mean,
that.
Yeah.
Now, here's what happens. When the smell is bad, people feel it's inhumane care. And maybe it is, maybe it's just dirty litter box. But also, I got this back, dog with injured back legs and chronic pain in the visitor's room for several days. And I verified that, and that did happen. So when you have people coming in and you have injured or ill animals, and I know you talk about a sick room, the public blames you for it. They don't think the shelter's not a vet hospital, it's not a clinic. So the shelter gets a bad rap for trying to help. So be cautious about how many sick and injured animals you have in the facility. Also, Hanover is getting their new website and their board. I have a board member that is very active and does a lot of work and donating to the shelter. And she wants to see the animal shelter on the Hanover website. I am helping coordinate the Hanover website, so we will put the volunteer farm and we will do as much as we can coordinate, but I don't know who helps with your marketing. If you don't have someone, I need to know. Do you have?
Our staff.
Okay.
Our staff does.
And I will work with you on that, on trying to get all that taken care of. But the Hanover website will have connections to shelter volunteers, hopefully eventually our volunteer videos could be made available, maybe at least on the Hanover, possibly even the county website, even the city website. They don't need to be a secret. They can be made available on any, county government website, and that helps people do what you want to achieve, Hannah.
It helps them see too that these programs
Yeah.
are available, which is helpful.
There's a lot of
Can I
questions I
sit down
have.
with whoever runs the county website, ask some suggestions, and I know how to do the back end of that website that the county uses. But I think there needs to be a little more information about the animal shelter and not just a pop out to the adoptable dogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. I mean, I'm not telling you yell for the county, no, I would never think to say that. I'm just saying Hanover, you certainly could, because I'm helping with Hanover, but I don't know about the county site.
Yeah, I
And
think
so
it
I
would
just
be-
wanted to say that, and then when staff are unhappy, it doesn't take long for it to filter into the community. They talk with family and they talk with friends.
Oh, I know they talk.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then so I just want to say,
Is
that when they've been
Yeah.
threatened that they're going to lose their job, that also spreads quickly.
Well, you also have to be stern with them too when they're not,
I'm just saying,
when they're trying to cause trouble,
if they're
you gotta
vent-
sit them down and be
okay,
stern with them.
if they're
let them
venting
know.
to family or friends,
It's not,
and they're being told they're going to lose their job,
it's
that's a
not
difficult
that
thing.
though, it's not just to
Okay.
family and friends, it's to vet's offices, it's to the mayor's office, it's to everywhere you could possibly imagine.
Okay, I'm not sure what the county policy is on,
I mean,
that,
I'm more
but-
about solving problems than I am anything, like,
But
but
eventually
eventually
it comes down
enough
to,
is enough,
you do
you know.
your
So
job.
is that how people, or somebody found out about a dog that's in the same place for 2 days? Because how else would you know?
because they go into the shelter.
But who's gonna go 2 days in a row? And
They
check-
called if the dog was still there, and the answer was yes.
I don't see a
believe
problem
that.
with the
I
dog
don't-
being
no,
in the
I don't
adoption
think
room either.
Okay, so
I can tell you
here's
about
my
that dog
thing.
if you want. I
No,
still
no,
have-
I
pain
really don't
management.
want discussion
Yeah.
about injured or ill animals being
No,
held.
we
at the
need to
shelter.
discuss it if you're
I
gonna bring
think,
it
I
up.
think she needs
Okay.
to address
That's what
it.
this board is for.
She needs to address it, because right now it's hearsay.
Albert was the dog that
Yes,
was they tried to relinquish him, he was dumped on the side of the road, a couple days later and brought in by animal control. He has chronic pain in his back hips and his back legs, he is on pain management. The vet seems to be okay with him going along if he gets an adopter that's good with special needs animals. He seems to be all clear on going with pain management. If not, we'll have to look at all the alternatives. I'm not dumb to that. But I'm gonna give him a chance if he has a chance.
How
Literally
long
the
has he been at the-
sweetest dog in the universe
All of our
too.
dogs have been there for a long
Yeah.
time. Albert's probably been there about a month and a half,
But there's dogs that have been there for longer.
since December. And it just, I've experienced that at every shelter I've been at Switzerland County. I can remember keeping Sally for almost 2 years.
I adopted a dog that had been in the shelter for a year and he was old and he had no teeth, and when we went to adopt him, they were like, thank God, you guys can just have him, and they gave us everything and we filled out the adoption paperwork.
Yeah.
He only lived for 5 months because he had a weird condition no one knew about, but he lived the best 5 months of his life. And
Yeah.
every dog, I believe, should have that chance, every cat should have that
Yeah.
chance.
Is Albert still there, and does he still need adopted?
Yeah,
Yes.
he does.
Okay,
And I
we're on
love
video
him.
Is he the
tonight,
one I
and
met?
maybe there's someone out there
I
that's
hope
looking for
so.
special need
Yes.
dog that can tolerate
Listen.
having a dog like that, plus afford the pain medication.
And I think
Albert
too,
is amazing. Albert gets
Freaking
along
love him.
with every single thing he comes into contact with. He's the happiest little fellow you'll ever meet. I encourage everybody to meet
I
him.
think if Lindsay had more support staff, rather than her staff just complaining about her and realizing she's trying to do a lot and manage a lot, and maybe have conversations with other staff members and not just one, you'd understand that Lindsay needs more support, so we really need to be focused on the budget. I wanted to have a conversation, but we're kind of reaching our time. But ideally, we need someone whose focus is on answering those phones and updating social media, reaching out, trying to get these dogs out of there and these cats out of there. And the social media, no offense to you guys, it's not very good, but I know you don't have the time to really focus on that content that's being blasted out there, because there should be little stories about, like, meet Albert, blah,
Or
blah, blah, here's a
videos
video. You can even reach people by TikTok if you wanted to, but that's a whole nother story.
Reach out to the high school journalism class.
Yeah,
I
but
didn't
it's
even
like,
think about
I
that,
mean,
yeah.
how much, sometimes your plate's just so full, like how much more can you
There's
do?
a lot that goes on behind the
Right.
scenes that the
Yeah.
staff doesn't
Could
Yeah.
those
like
kind of
you on.
students come and volunteer for that, but not necessarily animal care?
You had one, but
Because if they don't have to be trained on handling the animals or disease prevention or safety, they could be doing some things in the office. And that's a different kind
true,
of thing,
and
is
I
that
think there needs to
okay?
be some
That would
consistency
be up to the
too.
director, but I wouldn't see a problem with it.
I wouldn't
Okay.
see a problem
Both
with
have
it, it gives
questions.
them experience and what, something they wanna do in life. I
Lori
don't
has
see
a
problem.
question real quick.
Well, I don't have a question, but you just said that you hired Lindsay Holly
Yeah.
as she was a communication major.
Yeah, she would be great
Yeah,
at
I
that.
know, she hasn't started yet, she's getting ready to.
But I mean, if you need somebody to do social
Yes.
media, she'd be the person to ask.
Yes,
She
and I-
is the girl, man.
I wasn't gonna say anything, cause I don't wanna put her on blast on camera, but she's a great person, and she would be a great media person for me. I just don't wanna I wanna train her on one thing at a time, and not overwhelm her when she first gets there.
You had a question
You
too.
know, there's a huge group of kids in 4-H that work with dogs. They do obedience, they do agility,
Trina took
they
one,
do,
didn't
and Trina, and I work with Trina out at the fort with the kids there. They would be a huge resource for you.
Yeah, it would be
They
good.
know their dogs, they
Yeah.
know how to treat dogs, they know what to look for in an aggressive dog.
It would be a great educational resource as well, and, you know, the kids who participate in that, they're kids who have pets. And there may be
Yes.
kids whose parents are like, we live in an apartment, we can't have a dog,
Right.
but if we can do a partnership where we can figure out liability of having that dog go through the training program with the child and then.
There are actually
however,
kids there
it'd be
that
great.
borrow neighbors' dogs to come and be in the
If
program.
anyone wants to borrow mine, let me
So-
know, they all run
There would
That
just
might
be certain
something
liability.
to consider.
Yeah, there would be certain liabilities I'd have to touch on with that, especially if it's a minor that's in the building.
But I think they might be able to even work it into their, you know,
Their
their
4-H program.
projects that
Yeah.
they do, you know, volunteerism at.
I would
you know.
really like to get the DOC.
I've got a few low-cost
Yeah.
options for you guys, Ray, if
Any
you want them.
chance in hell of
I
that?
call and they said that they just don't have
Hey.
enough staff and enough.
Just so you know, the city sent a DOC crew up there.
They mow and weed eat
Yeah, I
out
know.
there, yeah.
They just came out and did it. I called Tony Sorrells and said, hey, there's weeds growing up, go
Yeah.
take care of this. And
Yeah,
he's
they
like, I'll
work
get a
it, they
DOC
do.
group
So-
up there.
Do you need
if
staff
it's-
because
Yeah.
Jenny and the staff watched over them when they were there anyway. And we went and got them and
But we cannot
Took 'em
rely on
back.
DOC.
That would have to be me or her to go and get them. I'm not sending 18 and 19-year-old kids to
No,
go
I-
get
no,
inmates,
no.
yeah.
Okay, so one of the things you can do in lieu of your splash pad,
Mhm.
there's some plastic pools that kids play in.
Yes.
The dogs love them. You don't want to get the little blow-up kind. Also,
Yeah.
Bobby's idea, huh?
Not less long.
They'll love them, and especially any
Actually,
lab mix will be in them.
When I was
Also,
at Tractor Supply yesterday talking to them about the air conditioning, they offered to donate some pools.
Go ahead and get
them.
those, and you don't have to fill them all the way, just a few inches and you'll be fine. Bobby's idea about the really big fan, I think they're big farm fans, we use them at the winery. One of the things that you can do is spray the floor, air running across water makes cold air.
Okay.
So that's gonna help you a lot. Sometimes you can put one at one end, blow in, the other blow out, so that you're moving air through. Because when it's 99 next Wednesday, all you're gonna do is blow hot air in. So, you know, he's definitely right. You wanna check with him on that.
Now, would that be more effective than a Mr. Fan? Or would
Yes.
that have the same effect?
No, Mr. Fan, you can't get a Mr. Fan that's big enough to move the air volume that Bobby's talking about.
And it's
So
constantly
the
filling up
volume
water.
he is addressing is
You're
huge.
talking about $1,500-$1,800. They use them in shops.
Okay.
It's,
Where did I get, yeah, I
It's
got one
huge.
down at the winery, but I don't think it was that much, but if it is,
it like 6 foot tall?
Yeah.
And 5 foot wide?
yeah, it's pretty big. Now, there's another step down from that my staff moved that's about 3.5 foot tall, 4 foot wide. And that might be safer for the ladies to move, I don't know.
Well, it's
Most-
also gotta be
most of them are on
with what
rollers.
fits in the
Yeah.
hallway, because we don't have that big of
So-
an area, yeah.
You might consider that.
Ideally, fix the air conditioner.
We
but-
need to get the air
I know, that's my first, yeah.
Versus
But-
all the
Yeah.
other calls.
The
Something
sprinklers
doesn't
are
work
also a
with
really
that.
good
Yeah.
idea for the dogs. Just
My dogs
put
love
a
those.
couple sprinklers and just cheap old sprinklers with a water hose and let it go that way. If you need a Y connector to do 2, that's okay. They don't need to spray all the way up in the air. They just need to spray into the kennel outside, and they'll be happy. And certainly will be safer. So that's really a good thing, to move those dogs outside, and you'll be able to leave them outside while the kennels are being cleaned.
Yeah.
And then I'll get with you, Val. Just, you got my phone number?
Those are super.
I'll get with you.
May I make another
Very quickly,
suggestion?
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
If it's on top, mine's gonna be totally off topic.
Okay, mine may be too.
You go first.
When we were visiting the other day and we went and we toured the dogs, I was wondering, Cash being as big as he is, I know he's been there for a long time and he can be a little
Scary.
scary. He's as tall as I am
Kennel
when he stands
aggression, yeah.
up. Have you ever considered having someone, like a trainer, come in and work with one particular dog
I would love
on
that.
We don't have
behaviors,
funding for it.
videoing
I would
it?
love that.
Okay, well, let me know.
I would love that. Cash, you have to
I
make Cash
agree.
outside of
Volunteer.
this kennel is
Oh,
great.
Oh, no, I
He's
have
my
no
love bug.
issue with him, he doesn't intimidate me, but anybody else walking in, a lot of people walking in there, I know his personality, I've heard about it.
He needs a bigger
He
area.
he just would scare most people.
They ended up
But
not
there's a
taking
lot
it.
of dogs in there that could use some one-on-one training, just basics, and you could, that would be a selling point too, not a selling point, an adopting point.
If you get a dog
For
to
the-
sit, you will love it.
Oh, don't that kid
You know, have them shaking, you know,
Yeah.
have them
Yeah.
healing, you're gonna move your dogs out a lot quicker.
I have a
See,
question.
that's what I thought.
Okay.
If we got it fenced in, you could make one run.
If you had,
Let one or two that get along,
you
let
could,
them have an hour in it.
or
and then-
even, or even an
Okay, we
area
got one
with a
more
park
question.
bench where people could sit with their dogs
Guys.
and play with it and
That way they
socialize.
can interact.
One
with
more
the dog.
question, one more question, then we're done.
The building fund. There is a building fund. It
Yes.
was, someone said, I don't know, there's what the stipulations are with the building fund. There's $122,275.01 in the building fund. Can that building fund, can those dollars be used to help? There's not gonna be a new building anytime in the future. There's going to be, it's going to be a down the road process that really, really needs to be addressed. But can those building funds be used to help the building to get to a better situation currently? Or are they completely locked up and can only be used if we're getting a new building?
As far as I
Does anyone know?
understand it, it was set up for a new building.
But is there anything in writing for that?
They have to look, but, you know,
What's the
I mean,
line- what's the line item
122,000.
say? Building fund?
Yeah,
Doesn't
100
specify
okay.
new, does it?
No, it
How were the
doesn't.
funds acquired? Did you tell the public they were for a new building?
I don't know.
So
Someone
that's-
want to call
that's-
Jenny?
that's the deal.
That's a question.
Oh, did they? But I mean, $122,000 in however long we've been having these conversations, that's not gonna
You
get us a
could've
new
built a
building
cat
anytime
room.
soon. It's just not.
Could it be a construction fund rather than a building?
So it's set up as a building fund, but why could it not be for
Why couldn't it be used
the
to
building?
construct your cat room in the back?
Yeah,
well, it's just, I don't know how it was presented to the public. You know, if people donated, some could have been rather large sums of money,
I'm gonna do research on this.
understanding that it was going to a new building, then
But it's not,
I
right?
I'll do
know
research.
they had those walks
It's
each
called
year
diverted
that we
funds. It's not a good decision.
paid so much
The
in
spring
a walk,
spread.
and it was to go
I
into
guess that would
the
depend on what.
building fund.
Yeah,
The
I just think,
language.
That's how it
but-
was advertised, I don't know.
Which, I mean, a building fund is a building fund, and if there's no plans to have a building even, like, we're not breaking ground anytime soon, we have no idea where that building would go, we all agree that the building we're currently in needs just to be plowed down, but we're in a situation where we have to make the current building work, and there's some needs that need to happen in these building funds. We need to look at it, we need to see what was said, and I know that I don't believe Lindsay's had any donations this year where people have said, I want my money going directly to this.
No, I haven't, and I've been putting it all towards medical
Yeah.
stuff, so.
So I'm happy to research that, I just, that's not very much money. There's not gonna be a new building anytime soon, can we use that to make
Building or,
minor updates to the current building to make it,
Maybe you
but
could
not
use it for
spend too
an
much.
addition.
Yeah, but not,
Like a
I don't
cat
wanna
room.
spend too much on it, is the problem. And then the city is organizing a volunteer day where we wanna come in and make it more welcoming in the front air, well, all of the shelter, update paint, I'll get that all donated. I talked to Lindsay, cause, and I don't know, how toxic is paint for cats? Like, will we have to move them fully out of the shelter,
Just
or?
get low PDA stuff. and-
Okay. So we're gonna organize that. Probably not till the fall, so that way the dogs could be outside and it's nice enough weather. But the city's gonna, so my team's taking that, and it's gonna be city volunteers, and if we schedule it at a time that we can have some of the street department crew there, they can help with like any sort of construction need things. But it's just gonna be a volunteer day. We're gonna take our personal days or vacation day to do it. And we're gonna come up, I talked to Lindsay about it, but spruce it up. There's a couple people that said they'll paint like prettier murals inside the building to make the adoption room
How about
friendly.
the
So
outside?
outside needs some love too. Looks better, still needs some love, but that's something I'm organizing. I'm gonna start reaching out to some volunteers just to get things, and I'll work with Lindsay on that. And actually, the mayor doesn't know about Kingdom Care.
That's on camera.
As long as we're not like contributing more
Right.
funding towards it, if I can get
Okay.
donations,
Door and then you come in.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.